Hey, Terry. I'm having some audio problems, my friend. I
All
cannot
right,
hear
how about
you.
now? Is that better?
Hey,
All right,
there you are.
fixed it. All right, once again, hey everybody, good morning, happy Friday. And is that Matt I see over there joining me
Here
live?
I am over there,
All right,
coming to
cool,
you from
cool,
the West
cool.
Coast.
All the way on the West Coast. So I'm on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast. It's amazing how the internet works. Um, so, so
We're getting
with
pretty
that
good at this
said,
digital thing, right?
yeah, I know, right? Well, welcome. You're my first guest on my photography show, but let me go ahead and do the official intro. So, those of you who are watching for the first time, hello, happy Friday. Welcome to my photography masterclass. My name is Terry White, worldwide design and photography evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and all the times in between and outside. So, we are doing a continuous session here. So, last week, just a quick recap, we took the shots from the previous week that we did a live shoot with, and we edited those down. We got them in a collection. I showed you how to share them with your client. I showed you how to do a quick edit, a quick retouch in Photoshop. Showed you how to narrow down to just like get rid of the bad ones right away, keep just the maybes and the goods. And today we're going to continue the process, but we're going to digress a little bit from, instead of sending that gallery to the client, which I did, the model, and getting her pics back, I sent that gallery to Matt to get his pics back. So we're going to talk about the whole process from scratch of how you can submit your photos to Adobe Stock so that you can sell them on Adobe Stock and make that passive income that we all love. You know, it's nothing like waking up every morning and seeing an email from Adobe Stock, you made this much money yesterday. So, and of course, seeing that continue to grow. So Matt is our Adobe Stock Contributor Evangelist. So Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, and I'll stop talking, and that way people can learn about what you do, who you are, where you're from, how you got into this, photography, stock, everything. Go ahead, Matt.
Woo, that's a big question. Well, first, I want to thank you. I'm honored. I'm thrilled to be the first guest on your show. That's what a privilege. As you mentioned, I'm the Adobe Stock Contributor Evangelist. My job is to work with artists around the world who submit to Adobe Stock to help you succeed, to help you earn revenue, expand your portfolio, shoot content that's relevant, get it indexed online and in front of the millions of Adobe customers around the world. I've been shooting stock for, I guess I started in 2006 with a company called Fotolia, which was ultimately acquired by Adobe about 4 years ago and became what is now known as Adobe Stock. And so I've been an Adobe Stock contributor for the better part of 15 years now, I guess. And in addition to that, I have a photography business. I shoot entertainment, celebrity events. I cover things like the Sundance Film Festival, the Academy Awards, a lot of live music. I'm based in Seattle, Washington. And so shoot a lot of entertainment events in Seattle and around the world whenever I can travel to cover that. I'm not busy shooting entertainment events 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's always downtime. There's maybe an entire week where I don't have an assignment. In this case, all of my events have been canceled, as I know many of you watching at home have. And I guess I should have started by saying I hope that you're all safe and doing well in this time, because I know it is a challenge, especially for creatives. And so there are alternatives. There are ways for you to stay busy, to keep your creative muscles flexed, if you will. And so I'm using stock. I've always used stock as a way to supplement my photography income. You know, my main bread and butter, again, entertainment events. But when I had downtime, I would give myself assignments to shoot stock and to submit content to stock. And that earned a lot of revenue for me over the years. And so now more than ever, that's, you know, I've been picking up my camera and kind of trying to teach myself new things. I've never been much of a food photographer, but we're getting creative in the kitchen, and so I'm snapping some fun pictures. I had my 20-year wedding anniversary was the day before yesterday, and I don't mean to brag too much, but I cooked an epic prime rib. It was a little frustrating my wife because I'm like, hang on a second, we got to get these herbs on here. Like, you don't need the herbs, it's not in the recipe, I know, but it's for the photo. And so it's a bit of a delay in the cooking process, but it's worth it because I get to earn revenue on those images that I shoot. And so I'm one of those photographers that can't sit still. I need to be creative. as often as I can. And I've used stock consistently throughout my life to challenge myself, if you will, to learn new things and to push myself out of my comfort zone. And it's something that I truly love.
Well, and I know you've been an inspiration and you've taught me quite a bit as far as how to be more successful at selling on stock. And we're going to be getting definitely some more of your tips today. But I do have a couple of house rules for people that are joining for the first time. If you're watching on the replay, great. Thanks for watching the replay. Thanks for being here. After the fact, that's, because we know everyone can't make it live all the time. So we are definitely appreciative of those numbers as well. If you are watching live today and you're watching on some other platform, whether it be YouTube or Twitter or whatever, that's great. Thanks for watching. But if you want to participate in the chat, if you want to be able to ask Matt questions or ask me questions, the chat that we're monitoring is over on Behance. So behance.net/live, that's where the show is officially hosted, and that's where we'll be paying attention to the chat today. All right, Matt, did you mention you were, I know you mentioned you're on the West Coast. Did you say you were in Seattle?
I may have mentioned it, but yes, I'm actually in Everett, Washington, about 20 miles north of the Space Needle. But I like to say Seattle. The office, the Adobe office, when we were in the Adobe office, is in Seattle in the Fremont neighborhood. We're all, of course, working from home right now. But yes, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest.
Gotcha. And you mentioned you were Fotolio, which got acquired by Adobe. And
right.
You mentioned all the various things that you photographed today. What's your favorite thing to shoot or photograph?
Oh gosh, this
is totally unscripted, everybody. This is like you did not know this question was coming.
My favorite thing to do, I like my favorite thing about photography is being faced with a new challenge that I've never met before. Sometimes I do very high profile events with high caliber. Let me give you an example. I flew to New York for Photo Plus Expo last fall. And as I was getting off the plane, my phone started blowing up in my pocket, and it was Nordstrom. Nordstrom is one of my clients in Seattle. That's the home offices in Seattle, and so I do a lot of work for them. They bring in various celebrities with their products and whatnot. Well, they were opening their brand new store in Manhattan, their flagship store, and they were down a photographer. And so I get this call while I'm on the plane, haven't taken my bag out of the overhead compartment. And like, Matt, can you be at, I don't know where it is, 52nd and Broadway, wherever, in downtown Manhattan in 80 minutes. And I'm at JFK. And if you've never been to New York, I mean, that's not, and it was 5 o'clock in the, rush hour, the worst time of day. I'm like, I don't know if I can or not, but I raced down, got my bag, jumped in a cab, literally stripped down in the back of the cab, put on some nicer clothes. It was pouring down rain. He got about 6 blocks away, and it was just total gridlock. So I jumped out, grabbed my bags. I'm running in the rain, find the client. There's a red carpet, celebrities, all this stuff. I don't know what I'm supposed to be shooting. So I just started shooting, and the next 3 hours were a total blur. That was one of my favorite events that I've ever done because it was just sheer mayhem, total chaos. And I gave these images to this client. I remember the main PR guy was like, I'm just so confused how you're here, because they associate with me with Seattle, and I wasn't hired initially to do this New York job. So my favorite thing to shoot is what is unexpected. What's something different. I always want to get photos that other people aren't getting. I went to East Africa back, years ago, and I went by myself and had my own guide, my own driver, because I didn't want to get pictures that everyone else in the car was going to be getting. When I shoot live music, if there's 10 photographers in the pit and they're all in front of the singer on stage right, I go to stage left and shoot the guitarist and wait for the singer to come to me to try to get some kind of content that's different. So that's ultimately what I love about photography. I need to say my favorite thing to photograph is, of course, my wife, my children, and my dog, because, I have to. My wife might be watching this, and so that's it.
Great answer. All right. And Matt's got an amazing family. So, Matt, we're going to go ahead and dive into today's subject. We don't want to keep people waiting too long before we get on like kind of the meat and potatoes of what we're doing today. And
let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'm going to switch over to my desktop where you'll still be able to see Matt and myself, and of course, last week's last week's continuation of last week's or the week before's photos. So this was the gallery that I sent to Matt. So what I did was I, of course, synced it to Lightroom in the cloud just by clicking that little sync icon that uploaded the smart previews, created, and then I went to the browser and I went to lightroom.adobe.com. And once I was there, we'll find that album. There it is. I created a proofing gallery, and once that there is proofing gallery with the button that's on the lower left here. Let me see if I can zoom it so you guys can see it. It's behind me. But this button, there we go. That button right there, bottom third button from the left that you see right now, fourth button actually from the left when you're looking at the screen. That button is actually the one that creates the proofing gallery. So now if we go look at that proofing gallery, or look at the proofs that were selected, I sent the link to Matt, and these are the ones that Matt chose. So I mentioned before that there will be a button once you do this, there'll be a create album button, which there it is right there at the bottom. I created an album so that I would know which photos Matt selected. And that way, someone's saying my screen capture is really low res. Let me see if I can fix that for you real quick. I think I might know what that is. Let me just make sure. Nope, it shouldn't be low res. That should be a good screen capture for my video. All right. But anyway, that create album put Matt's selections in an album that are now back on in Lightroom Classic. So if I go look at that album, here it is, Krista's Matt's picks, and that should now show you that these are the ones that Matt selected. And the ones of the portraits themselves, these are the ones that we took live in the studio 2 weeks ago. The ones that I took after that shoot while she was still here are the ones that are kind of like a work from home situation, because I wanted to be able to showcase. Yeah, I see what you're talking about, Tim. I'm not sure why. Hang on one second, guys. Technical thing here. I just want to check the resolution of the screen one more time. It is what it should be on.
I got it. I'll say while you're looking at that, in this series, you shared these images with me. I love the fact that she's wearing business attire on top and like casual workout clothes on the bottom. I think that's so relatable, and that's what you want to do with stock, is to create content that people can relate to. I mean, I haven't worn a pair of pants in 3 weeks since this whole thing has started happening, and so I think many people in these virtual conferences are doing that. One look. All right, you got it?
I think I fixed it. So yeah, now it should look good. All right. So anyway, going back real quick. So in the web browser, Matt made his selections. I went back to that gallery, clicked the create album, that added it as just another album in the cloud, and then I was able to go back to Lightroom Classic, find that album, and just basically be able to show it to you now. So these are the images that Matt selected. And Matt, you were saying about the business on top, casual on the bottom. That was kind of one of the themes I was going for, was a shot like this.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, because I don't think that we'll ever wear pants again after the pandemic is over. Like this is just
pants are so overrated. I had no idea.
It's just too comfortable. Well, good pants. Let's put it that way. So yeah, we probably just you don't want to know what I'm wearing under this. So anyway, and I wanted to capture something that I think would be popular on stock, because I just think that it would, send a message that we're all like this. We're all, we're having to dress up for webcams for work, of course, but we should also still just kind of keep a routine for just getting ready, even though you're not going anywhere anymore. So this is kind of more real to life than we think. All right. So Matt, can you tell me about some of the other choices you made here?
Well, the main thing, I mean, for me, one of the biggest challenges that I have is that I fall in love with pretty much every picture in the gallery. And so I'm shooting with a 1DX Mark III now. That shoots 20 frames per second. And so I can literally shoot, and there's like an infinite buffer. So I can shoot 1,000 frames that are virtually identical with no alternative option. Like basically, no customer in their right mind would purchase every one of those images because there's no unique value to them. They're all essentially the same. And so I look for images that have unique value and then the best of that. There's so many photographers that submit to Adobe Stock that'll send the 10 images that are virtually the same. And then the moderation team, we have human moderators looking at these images with human eyes. They're just going to pick one of those files. And I'll bet you, dollars to donuts that is going to be the image that you would not have picked. And so you want to
I
make that
know.
tough and pick the image that best represents that particular series and then submit them. Now with portraits, the same person, it's, there's not a lot you can do, but in these particular images, you had her head facing one way, facing a different way, certainly wanted to go vertical and horizontal, different expressions, and things of that nature. And then I also picked the image that has your gray card for white balance. I'm assuming that's your white balance
Yeah.
calibrator.
I was wondering why you selected that one.
I mean, as long as that product itself isn't trademarked, I have one, that I've had for, 20 years now. And so I think they're a pretty generic enough product. You wouldn't want to get rid of
Yep.
that little
This
tag
we'd have
there.
to get rid of. Yep.
When you're selling to Adobe Stock or any stock agency, commercial licensing, you can't have any intellectual property, any trademark logos or brands or things like that. But I have a feeling if you got rid of that tag, that's going to be generic enough. And so is this going to be a photo that flies off the shelves and you retire in the Bahamas with? No. But it may appeal. There are photographers and photography stores and schools that buy stock content all the time. There's a lot of popular pictures of people holding cameras. I've purchased licenses to use images of people holding cameras for different webinars and things of that nature. And so this can appeal to that. A photography class, we're going to learn about white balance, and then that's
Yeah. And you know
their hero
what?
shot. So why not?
I would have never submitted this photo until you said that. But it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, my question is why not? And it's different than the other images in the series. Now, if I was doing a portrait shoot, I would probably, I was paying a model, I would switch up and do different outfits and whatnot. I know in this particular shoot, I watched your video and it was about doing a professional headshot for social media. And so this wasn't per se a stock shoot at the time, right? The purpose of the class was for professional heads, which totally makes sense. If I had hired her and was doing portraits specifically, I would have, 3 or 4 different outfits, maybe some, certainly business attire, some workout clothes, casual clothes, things of that nature, and then maybe change up makeup and hair. So there's always a different look. Are some of these photos similar to each other? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but they're all quite nice. She's a great model. And so I feel like, if you can get a handful of images in the series, different composition, different looks, that would, she's got, she has a great smile. It's kind of the same throughout a lot of the images. So that's not a big differentiator. So I would encourage you doing a stock shoot to have your model prompt him or her to change their expression up. They're sad, they're happy, they're mad, they're just casual. You want authenticity, really. You want real. I use humor a lot in my shoots and try to get my models to laugh, or I do have them do something silly that's kind of embarrassing, and I'll take the photo, but that's not really the photo I want, because when they're done with that, people tend to laugh at themselves when they get a little silly, and that's when you catch them at their core, right? And so for portraits specifically, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I look for when I do a shoot.
Good point. And yeah, like you said, if this had been for stock, I would have probably, I certainly wouldn't have spent as much time. Like we spent the entire hour capturing portraits because that's what the shoot was all about. But I would have maybe captured like no more than 10 or 15 frames per outfit, per expression, per whatever, so that you can get more out of that time that you're spending, as opposed to 100 shots that look pretty much the same. So
Absolutely.
definitely, that's a great tip if you are purposely shooting to submit to stock, as you want as much variety as possible with the subject that you're working with, whether it's change of clothes, change of hair, change of makeup, change of expressions, change of props, change of backgrounds, change of scenery, change of everything that you can think about changing, so that you have more to submit.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's
So now, question on that though, like because I've been burned by the submitting, and of course it wasn't on purpose, but submitting too many shots that from the same shoot that are pretty much identical. Like there's not a whole lot of variance between them. So what in this, just like you said, the stock moderator who's going through and approving them says, "Oh, these two are the same. I'm going to pick one A or B. They pick B, and I wish they'd picked A."
yeah.
So A gets declined. B is the one that's now being sold. And it's like, well, A to me was a little bit a better shot. And of course, it's my opinion versus the moderator. But to avoid that, like you said, don't submit both. Submit the
Yeah.
A shot, the one that you like better. And that way, that will be the one that gets approved if there's a
Exactly.
choice between declining one and approving one. So,
The
similar
moderators are not
question.
wrestling with those decisions. They're not analyzing like, oh, there's a
No, they're
little
not.
wrinkle there. They're going bink next and moving on. So,
Yep.
and so yeah, if you like A better than B, just pick A. Don't put it in
Pick
their hands.
A. Yeah, that's what I was saying last week when you're deciding to delete bad shots, because you're the photographer. It's your discretion as to what you think is a shot that you'll never use. Same thing when you're being more critical when you're submitting the stock, because you're saying, okay, if I'm submitting these five, are they different enough to where all five could be approved?
Yeah.
And if they're not, which one of the two or three is the better one? And we kind of talked about that a little bit last week as well. But
Would
on that same note, in this case, I noticed you picked this one and you picked this one, which to me are the same, just one's tighter crop. So if this is just me, if I were submitting these, I probably would pick one. I'd probably pick this one because this would give the person who bought this more leeway to, they have a background if they need it. They can always crop it if they don't need it.
exactly.
Versus
You're
if you
totally
give them this, they might skip it and say, well, I needed more headroom. I needed to be able to put something above her head, and you
copy
didn't give me
paste.
the top of her head. Right.
Yeah,
So I need
copy
more copy
so
space.
important. There's actually a filter in Adobe Stock that customers use. They can click, only show me images with copy space, and then Adobe Sensei, the artificial intelligence built within the Adobe applications, will recognize images that have copy space, and they'll only show those. So yeah, if you're only going to submit one of those files, which you're totally right, it's the same image, and you don't have to be a Photoshop expert to be able to crop that image down to that tight headshot if that's what you want. So you're absolutely right. Just submit this one right here. That's going to show up potentially in the copy space filter, and also can be appealing to people that need a tighter headshot with that same look. The
Now,
same
another thing.
processing, if I may, just a lot of people like to submit images in black and white, and
That's what I was going to say. Yep, you got it.
yeah. So if you do that, we'll take some. We reject, I would say, the majority of black and white submissions. It needs to really be, it needs to be black and white. Like that makes total sense that it's black and white. But generally speaking, a customer can purchase a license to use a full color, sharp color image, and they can convert it to black and white if that's what their project requires. Now you can take a black and white photo and make it color. Terry White certainly could take a black and white photo and make it color. I'm no Terry White. I could not. It would take way too much work for me, and most customers are not going to be able
Sure,
to
Matt.
do that. So that'll be your next week's
Matt,
class.
Matt's
I
being very modest. I've seen Matt's work. He can make a great looking black and white. But along those same lines, what we're saying is that don't submit two of the same photo, one in color, one is black and white, thinking, oh, they're different. Somebody will buy the black and white one, someone will buy the color one, because most likely it'll probably get rejected because like Matt said, it's a one-click button in most applications to at least convert it to black and white. Now, it may not be the black and white you would have designed, but at least if a person wanted, they were going to start with color and get rid of the black and white.
Yeah, and
All
you
right,
need to
so
be okay with that. you need to be okay that the end result may not be what you had initially envisioned. This is commercial licensing. You're selling images. The end user, how they envision it is what's important. So give them the most flexibility to work with, a clean, sharp color version of a file. Let them do whatever they want. If they want to turn it upside down and do spot color or whatever, so be it. As long as that royalty lands in your bank account, for me, I'm cool with that. I have to can I bring up Stephen Booth's comment about queue
Yep,
1,000
I was gonna
people?
ask. I was gonna ask you. Well, he has another question under that as well.
I know, but I thought it was so funny that he's like, "Here comes 1,000 people queuing up pictures with gray cards." That's Terry's shot, you guys. We're just using that as an example. You're gonna have to stay out of that market. Terry's got that one cornered.
I got this. I'm about to corner the market on this one. So first of all, while you're talking about his second question, I'm going to go ahead and remove this logo. I'm going to try and use the spot removal tool in Lightroom. If not, we'll take it over to Photoshop. But let's give it a shot. Go ahead. You can answer Steven's other question.
Yeah, so regarding trademarks, what about street scenes? They're pretty much guaranteed to have logos and trademarks on storefronts and the backgrounds, etc. Yeah, you have to clone out storefront signs. If there's you're at a Target store, you need to get rid of all that kind of stuff, any of the trademark elements. If you're on the Hudson River and you're shooting a Manhattan skyline, you can have a couple of insignificant logos in the deep background. It just can't be the emphasis of the photo. Trademark buildings. So in Seattle, the Space Needle is iconic and clearly recognizable. It says Seattle. You see a picture of the Space Needle and you know that's Seattle. But the Space Needle is privately owned and that's trademarked. And so you can't take pictures of the Space Needle and sell them to stock and use keywords and titles, Space Needle in Seattle. You can't not do that. But the Space Needle does not have the rights to dictate how the Seattle skyline is being used. And so you can go up to Cary Park. It's this beautiful view of the whole city, and the Space Needle's there, but you can see, CenturyLink Field where the Seahawks play and all this other stuff in the background. If you're shooting a wide cityscape and no one particular space is the main focus of the image, that's fair game. Just don't put Space Needle in your keywords and title, and that's going to be okay. But you do want to watch for trademarked elements. If they dominate the image, then that's no good. I use an example in some of my talks where I photographed a model in front of street art. It's not graffiti, it's a beautiful mural on the side of a building, very recognizable. Took a picture of her. She's the focus of the shot, but that street art really is a big part of the image. The artist, she didn't give me permission to use that to license images of her work, so I couldn't sell that. So I went across the street and broke out a long lens, shot at f2.8 where you can just see color and kind of motion. You can't tell what that mural is, and that's the only way I could use that particular shot.
And same thing along the lines of, like, I remember coming back from Paris, submitting a bunch of Eiffel Tower shots, which of course there aren't enough of those on stock, but submitting a bunch of those. And some were getting approved and some were getting declined. And I couldn't figure out why. And then it dawned on me, oh, the ones that are being declined are the ones taken at night. Is it a noise issue? Nope. They come back and say intellectual property is the reason. And then I was like, well, why wasn't it intellectual property during the day? Because at night, when it's lit up, that lighting pattern, that sequence that they use to light the Eiffel Tower is trademarked. That's someone's design of lighting. So that's why the night shots of that could not be approved, but the day shots were fair game.
Yep, that's one of those funny rules that, like, how am I supposed to know that? Well, that's where our moderation team comes in with these really famous landmark places. They know most of the rules. If you go to the Adobe Stock Contributor portal, which is contributor.stock.adobe.com, which that's where you start and submit your content. At the bottom of that contributor portal is a Learn and Support link that'll take you to Learn and Support. There's a legal guideline section that has a lot of information about model releases, property releases, and then also there's known image restrictions. And so we don't know every place on planet Earth. You need to do your homework and make sure that you have the rights to be selling, commercial licenses to the images that you're submitting. But we're a line of defense to help protect you as well.
Yep, and I just, Tim beat me to it, but I was just typing that in. That is the URL to be a contributor. And you don't, by the way, so a couple questions that come up, and we're going to go ahead and submit a couple of these, but a couple questions that always come up. Well, do I have to be an Adobe Creative Cloud customer to submit? No. Do I have to be a photographer that's been shooting for 20 years to submit? No. just 10. No, just kidding. There's no limit. You can start shooting today and submit.
I
So
I've
there's
learned.
no paid requirement whatsoever. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, the object is for you to make money. You don't have to be a cloud member. If you are a cloud member, you can use that same Adobe ID to sign into the contributor portal. And yeah, you can be like, what's a camera, and pick it up and take photos. We're not accepting you based on you, the photographer. We're reviewing each and every image. And so more than likely, you're going to get your content rejected if you're just learning photography. But I tell you what, I learned photography in many ways. I've been a photographer my whole life. I've loved it, been passionate about it. But getting the rejects coming back saying we're not taking this for technical reasons made me really it's because it's so impartial, and so it's not my mom saying, oh well, that's really beautiful, honey. It's like they're saying, yes, this is good enough commercial value, or no, it's not. And then I had to look at my own work through impartial eyes, and that was a really big step for me in my photography career, because sometimes your friends and family aren't going to give you the real truth, right? And so, but the
As
moderation
a
team, I guarantee
photographer,
will.
we learned that not all photos go in the refrigerator. Some go in the drawer. So that's just a kid reference. But anyway, not all art, even though you love it, is necessarily the best picture ever seen or taken by any person. So it's just, it is humbling to find out what images get approved or what get rejected. Some images I've submitted saying, oh my God, this was the most amazing concept in the world. I'm going to sell 1 million of these. They get submitted and haven't sold one yet. And then other ones that are just total flukes become my best sellers. So
Yep.
it's just like predicting a viral video. Oh yeah, I'm going to make this video. It's going to go viral. There's going to be 1 million views and no one watches it. And then you happen to trip over a can and don't hurt anything, but then that one's the one that everyone watches 1 million times.
Of course,
So
of course.
yeah. Now you can plan to be successful by, again, concentrating on the things that Matt talked about, taking quality images that are authentic, that are different than everything that's up there. That's because, again, nothing against Krista, and these images probably will do okay, but a person standing in a black jacket standing against a gray background is not going to shatter any records. There's just no other way to say it. I know that going in. But the work from home stuff, that is slightly different than everything else that's up there. So that one, and those will probably do a little bit better than just the person standing against a solid background. So I've learned that it's really about being different on stock, because they can find 1 million portraits of a person, male, female, tall, short, black, white, Asian, whatever. That doesn't matter as much as is it different than everything else that's out there.
Absolutely. And like you said, yeah, these aren't going to be bestsellers that happen. You're not going to get sales every single day, but you might get sales on these every single week. And then as you've been building up your portfolio, you've got a few thousand images in there now, Terry, right?
4,000.
4,000. That's amazing.
4,000.
And so as you build your portfolio, then it increases in size and the volume of sales increase, because you'll see one shot sold from that particular shoot, and then another shot from a different shoot entirely sells, and then it becomes a cumulative total of what's being licensed. Like you said, that email I get with yesterday you made $83 or whatever. I love getting that email. It makes me so happy, and it isn't about one particular image or one particular video that's sold. It's a cumulative total. When I go into the portal and I check my statistics, which I do every day, and I look at what is selling, it's a range of royalty rates like this. So this shot is already sold for you. You've already made.
So this is proof in the pudding that am I retiring off the shot? Probably not. But you sell a few thousand of those varieties of different things. Now you're talking about serious income that you could actually do something with. So here's what I want you to think about when you're going to submit. We're going to get through the submission process right now because we only got like 20 minutes left. But it's not a matter of, I'm going to submit 10 shots and that's going to be it. That's going to make me enough money to retire or just buy a lens or whatever, and I'm going to be done. If that's your attitude, you're going to probably fail miserably. It is a volume business. It is about continuing to be submitting images and being fresh. because images that I sell all the time aren't selling as many now as they did a year ago and a year before that, because they're no longer fresh. Newer images now people are selling. Also, you got to look at too is that what's the style, like what's the fashion that's being, if you're shooting portraits or
Sure.
people, is that fashion trendy now or not? If it's old and no one's looking for that anymore, then no one's going to want to buy that image. So it's all about not only volume, but keeping it fresh and continuing to upload new images.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better
All
myself.
right. Let's go ahead and submit one so they see the process. And as you can see, I've already submitted at least one of those. I submitted this one, or I probably submitted more than that one. But I'm going to walk you through the process. If I hadn't submitted any of these, I would just take Matt at his word, select them all, make sure I go through and fix anything like white balance, any egregious retouching that needs to be done. I try not to heavily retouch for stock because usually it's not worth the time. Fixing, cropping anything, like I know on one of these or two of these, for example, if we go into the crop, actually that one's fixed. Let me see if it's the other one before that one.
Can we talk about that image real quick, Terry?
Sure, yep.
And so I had asked a question about the paint, the photo. I was going to say painting. It's so picturesque behind her. That's your photo, yeah?
Correct. So this, and Matt, the first thing Matt asked me when he saw this, he said, "Is that your photo behind there?" I said, "Yes." Because?
So most likely you're going to need to submit a property release so that the moderator knows that that is your image. You have the rights to sell an image of the image, if you will. And so if you went to IKEA and bought some photo and had it hanging on the wall and it was pretty big like that and dominant in the image, you probably wouldn't be able to license that for commercial stock. I did a ballet shoot, and the most time-consuming process for me was in this ballet school. They had all these pictures all around. I had to, Photoshop all those out of there. And so you want to watch for that. And so even if it's your photo, the moderation team doesn't know that. So you probably need a property release for that. Same would go if you were taking a selfie or submitting an image of yourself. The moderators don't know what you look like, so you need to submit a model release. Any recognizable person in an image needs to have a model release. But I noticed for shoes, don't have any trademark stuff, right?
I saw someone ask that earlier in the comments. So they said, do you need to upload a model release with the shots? And the answer is yes, if it's a person you've never uploaded a model release for before. So if there are two people in the photograph and we can see their faces, 2 model releases. 5 people in the photo, we see their faces, 5 model releases. So for every recognizable person or property or piece of art, you're either going to need a property release or a model release. And I was talking about retouching earlier. So I had already cropped this one because there was a piece of a tripod or something laying on the floor. So those are the kind of minor things I might do to a photo before I submit it. All right, so let's
go ahead. Plain. There's no trademark stuff on the coffee mug. That's important because if there was, you wouldn't, on the computer, if there was a Mac logo on there or something like that, you would need to get rid of that. So you want to watch out for those little details in these types of images, because there can be things in there that you just, when you're shooting it, you don't even realize. I go through before I do a shoot with a roll of gaff tape and cover up everything that I can see. And then if nothing else, I'm protected if I accidentally submit it just with the gaff tape showing, but it really serves as a reminder for me to go through and clone out anything that is not appropriate for stock.
Right, so we made sure that the logo for whatever these shoes are wasn't visible. I believe it's on the back of the shoe, so that worked out okay here. There was there was a coffee cup originally in the shot that had a logo on it, and we swapped out that coffee cup for just a generic one. And you might say, "Oh, I'll just fix that in Photoshop." It took all of 2 seconds to go get a different cup than it would be to have to retouch that logo out of 50 or 10 or how many of the pictures you're submitting. So whenever you see something like that, like Matt gave a great point, using just a little bit of gaffer's tape on a logo, like on a shoe or a jacket or something, just so that it's gone. Now, if it's going to be like, it's going to look tacky in the shot, then obviously you might want to Photoshop that out if you can't remove it before you take the photo. Now, in this case, I would normally remove the Apple logo off the back of this, but this particular laptop had a cover on it, a smoked dark cover, that you just can't see the Apple logo. It's there, you just can't see it. So that worked out. All the other stuff in the background here, these are like little trophies in a case here. this is all out of focus enough to where it's not identifiable, so that would still work. All right, so let's submit a couple of these and go through that process. Since I've done these already, we'll submit. We'll just pick one and go through the process. I'll pick a few of these, like that one. And now whenever I'm ready to submit from Lightroom, which there are multiple ways to submit, there's an Adobe Stock Publish service right in Lightroom Classic. So you'll find it under all the published services. And you can go ahead and just drag your photos in. When you do that, when you drag them in, it'll add them to the ones that you can upload, and then you would actually go and click Publish to publish those photos, which will convert your RAWs, just for the sake of uploading, to JPEG. It will then start the upload process, so it's already doing this whole process for those 3 photos. So converting my RAWs to JPEGs, uploading them, so forth and so on. Now, the one thing we didn't talk about, and I know Matt uses a slightly different workflow. He uses Adobe Bridge. The reason Matt, and I'll let Matt speak to this, but the reason Matt likes Bridge is because it has the same type of publisher built in. But Matt, talk about keywording for Bridge and why you prefer it over Lightroom.
So one of the top questions I get is, how can I ensure that my content is seen, and how can it be found to increase my chance of sales? There's a lot of stuff that's out of your control, the search algorithm and all kinds of different things. And we did a really good webinar with the head of search for Adobe Stock recently and talked a lot about that. But what you can do as an artist, what you have in your control, is the indexing process, the keywords. It's the #1 most important part of submitting stock, in my opinion, because you can have the greatest photo ever taken in the history of a camera, but if the customer can't find it, they can't buy it. And so the way they're finding it is with the keywords that you add to your content. Now, if you don't want to spend the time on the keywords, Adobe Sensei will recommend up to 25 keywords for you automatically if you don't have them embedded in the images, which is what we're about to show you how to do. I personally, it's too important. I don't leave it up to an artificial intelligence to do for me. I will often take the recommendations from Sensei and use some of those words, but I also add my own. One thing that's really unique about Adobe Stock search engine is that it puts an emphasis on the order that you add the keywords. And so in other words, the first 10 keywords have more weight in search than the remaining keywords, anything that you put after that. You can put as few as 5 keywords in, you can put as many as 50. The sweet spot's between 15 to 25 really, but those first 10 have the biggest weight in search. And so you need to make sure that the most important, most relevant keywords are listed in your top 10. And on top of that, if you have it listed in the title, the title is searchable now. It needs to read like a sentence, not just be a list of words. It needs to read like a sentence. But any words that are listed in the title and in your top 10 keywords have double weight in the search. And so it's time consuming, but it's a really big, important process, and it's worth that investment. And so unfortunately for stock contributors, Lightroom is a brilliant, I couldn't live without Lightroom. I mean, I use it on all my images. It's designed for organization and, and to be organized, alphabetical order makes sense. For stock keywords, unfortunately, alphabetical order does not make sense unless you're just taking pictures of apples or aardvarks or something along those lines. And so you need to, when you upload through Lightroom, if you use those keywords, then they're going to show up in alphabetical order. You need to resort them. And that's very easy to do in the contributor portal. Bridge, however, keeps the keywords in the order that you add them. And so that's why my personal preference is to use Adobe Bridge. So when I upload the file.
Give me your top 10 for this photo.
Which photo are we looking at here?
We're looking at the one, the table, coffee cup, that one.
Okay, and so let's see. I would go woman, adult, young, African American, natural hair, black hair, one, alone, sit, work, because sit works for sits and sitting and all that good stuff. Work from home, 3 words as one keyword, a compound keyword there, because work from home is really a big searching thing right now. Telecommute, laptop, table, casual, Legs crossed, those two words as one compound keyword. Blazer, leggings, home, indoor, people, lifestyle. Anything else I'm missing here?
I probably missed a couple while you were talking and I was typing. Couldn't keep
I
up,
can't see.
yep.
Well, I
I'm
can't
going to
see it.
copy this. I'm going to copy this list though. Hang on,
Mm-hmm.
we can always add more. So that's the advantage of doing this in Bridge. I don't do it in Bridge. I don't do it in Lightroom either. But the advantage of doing it in Bridge over Lightroom is if you had typed these exact same keywords in Bridge, let me copy them, for example. Click OK. So that puts them in. Now see here's alphabetizing them too, but but it doesn't submit them that way. In Lightroom, however, if you put those same keywords in the photo before you submit it, so if I come here and I just paste those in, there they are in the order I typed them, but as soon as I get out of it and go back, now it alphabetized them. So that's the downside, is because then it's taking them out of the ranking order that you want them in and just alphabetizing them, which alphabetically they're not necessarily the best order for selling at that point.
Yeah, so like if blazer was the top keyword, well, people searching for blazer may find it, but that's not the most important keyword in here, right? And so you want to give yourself every advantage that you possibly can.
Right. So I've stopped putting them in Lightroom for that reason, because putting them in here, then I just got to go back and resort them anyway. I use Adobe Sensei to start. So we submitted those 3. They got uploaded. We're going to go back now to our starting point, which was the all the way up here. We can go up here, and that's where we started. And now I'm going to go over to the browser, which now, after it uploaded, a little message popped up. I clicked OK, and it said it took me over to the browser to show me what was here. So you'll notice that all of these, or at least a couple of these, have 3 keywords in them, because those 3 keywords we talked about in the photography shoot class. So I put those in when I was tethering. Those necessarily wouldn't be the ones, obviously, I'd use here. I wouldn't use a brand name like Ellen Chrome. And the fact that it's in Atlanta, no one cares. And headshot, really not relevant either. So these are keywords that I would not use for this at all. So I'm going to erase those keywords.
Yeah. For a couple of things, so Ellen Chrome, for example, is a trademark brand name, and so having it in the keyword or the title is just as bad as having the Ellen Chrome logo in the image itself. And while that photo was taken in Atlanta, someone searching for pictures of Atlanta, they're not going to buy this, because this could have been taken in Paris, France, or Thailand, or anywhere. You never know where. It's the location is irrelevant, like you said, to this. So
all right, Elle, and I've just been informed that you're in the way of the keywords. We can move you over. Hang on real quick.
I can just write them down on a piece of paper and hold them up.
No, hold on. They need to see this panel anyway. It would help if I used the right mouse.
While you're doing that, I'm going to answer a question from Stephen. Do you deduct tax or pay the full amount and leave it to creators to pay it? It is taxable income. You want to submit a tax form when you create your account, and then there's no taxes deducted, but you will get a 1099 at the end of the year for those of you in the U.S. and need to pay taxes on that. If you don't submit a tax form, then the maximum withholding rate is applied to all of your files, or all of your sales, which is around 30%.
All right, so those that missed it because Matt was in the way blocking this panel, so I'll go to the next one, which is the same problem. No, that's not your fault. It's my fault. Same problem. It's got those same 3 keywords. So all I did was scroll down and say, no, these are keywords. These are stupid keywords from Lightroom. I don't need these. These don't apply to stock. Erase all keywords. And then you can either just go ahead and put your own in now, like Matt's an expert at it. He did his own. Or you can refresh auto keywords. And by refreshing auto keywords, those are the ones that Adobe Sensei said, I'm looking at this photo. These are the things I see. You may not agree with those keywords. And in most cases, I don't agree with all of them. It's missing ones that I would use. And there may not be in the priority order I would put them in. But it's given me a good start for ones I might have missed.
Yeah, but definitely remove the stuff that's irrelevant. Because especially with things of gender, ethnicity, Sensei can get it wrong. And so if Sensei said this was a man, which often for me, like if I put...
It said businessman.
Yeah, so if someone's searching for man, they see that image in their search results and they don't click on it and don't buy it, that pushes it down in search. And so it's really a disadvantage to have irrelevant keywords because it'll hurt you everywhere, even with those relevant keywords. And so take the time. Like I said, Sensei is quite rude to me. He calls me old man, senior citizen. Awful.
All right. So, and just quickly before we run out of time, so Matt would keyword these, or you would keyword these and add more that you'd want. For example, businesswoman is down at the bottom. I might move that up so you can drag them literally in the order you think they should be in. You can add the ones that are missing, like Matt called out African American. I agree. Make sure you spell it right, because otherwise no one will ever find it. African American. So I might boost that up to the top, or certainly put it in the top 5. Young. I might not take business at the top, but work from home, all of those things. That's just a portrait. But that would be it. So now, once you're done with the keywords, you need a couple more things. You need your category, which it will auto-detect. So people, I would leave it in. And this is the big questions. Is this illustrative editorial content? Meaning, is this a branded shoot with not a person in it? So if it was, then yes. If not, it's not. And big question here, is this a recognizable person or property? It absolutely is. So I click yes. And this is where you would either create your model release, or and upload one if you already have it, or use one of the ones you already have. So if I just find Krista, there she is. I've already got a model release for Krista in that. And so this one, once I put a title in, one more thing. And Matt, what would be the title for this? You said a nice sentence. For this headshot in the middle.
If you click on that empty title bar, Sensei will recommend a couple of title options for you. Let's see how that does. I'm not able to read it, unfortunately.
Where am I clicking? I didn't know that.
Is it empty, or is there something in there already? So you should see some options below it. If not,
no, it's not giving it to me.
Portrait of African American businesswoman probably would be what I would say. Smiling. I think she had does she have a nose ring too?
Yep, she does. She does.
Make sure that's indicated in there, because I think that's a kind of a differentiator, kind of a more edgy businesswoman, right? And so a piercing nose ring would be something worth calling out.
Right. So last couple minutes. So since this one is now got all the criteria, you added a title, you picked a category, you told it has a model release or not, and you've given it at least 5 keywords, it has the green check mark that it's ready to go. Now remember, I copied those keywords that Matt rattled off before. So instead of using the Adobe Sensei ones, I am going to clear those once again, erase all keywords. And you can toggle this little switch over here to say paste keywords. So when I say paste keywords, then I can paste in the ones that Matt gave me in order, and they will stay in order that way. So even if I go back to the other way, they're now in the order he gave them to me in. Did I have woman twice for some reason? Yeah, I did have woman twice. Okay, I don't need woman twice, so I can delete the second one. All right. So, and then the same thing, model release, yes, category, yes, title, yes, and then that one would be ready for submission as well. So we have one ready to submit. We have 1 minute left. Let's go ahead and submit that, or let's quickly do this one too. So yes, Krista, and just title for the business shot. Oh, now it's giving me the ones. Businesswoman working on a laptop. It didn't give me that before. Young businesswoman working on a laptop. So I can use that title. Sure. I could say young, let's just African American businesswoman working on a laptop from home, maybe.
There you go. Yeah, I put home in there because that's a big, obviously right now there's a lot of demand for that kind of image showing that.
So in our last 30 seconds, did I spell African wrong? I did spell African wrong. Good catch. Thank you. And I can now go ahead and submit those, and 2 are ready to go. So if I submit both of those, which we're going to uncheck this one because it's already there, that one would be submitted for approval, and it will go into my in review category, waiting for a moderator to get to it. So that's just, once that's approved, then it would become available and part of my my dashboard, part of my sale. So here's my dashboard of what's currently available in my stock. Let's go ahead and switch over to by date. And Matt, any parting words?
I just want to thank you for having me here. The link to the portal again is contributor.stock.adobe.com. If you click the Contact Us link at the bottom of the page, put my name in there. I'm happy to answer any questions for you that I can. My Instagram, if you wouldn't mind giving me a follow, is Mat Hayward Photo, at Mat Hayward Photo with just one T. And that is all I have to say about that.
And that is all you have to say about that, Matt. All right, Matt, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And as you can see, some of those work from home shots are already starting to sell. So I couldn't be happier with the whole making passive income while I sleep mantra. So once again, Matt, you can go ahead and put your links in the portal before, or in the chat before we leave. And I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to everybody, because next up is the Daily Creative Challenge. And you guys, nothing was said about a model release for a minor child. You need the adult to sign it. So you need the guardian, the parent or the guardian, and a witness, by the way, for all model releases. So yeah, there's that question answered. All right. So bye, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.